Giants season.
I kind of like that.
I do like it.
But it wasn't too bad. It was nice. I preferred that when the sun was in my face. That's my shit.
That sun gave that energy. But first and foremost, I give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Ba'ashem, Hakadash. Double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Another week in, week out, doing the work out here on the highways and byways as Yahweh Shai has commanded. So first thing we're going to be talking about today is there's a brother out, I don't know what state, but I saw a video of some Edomite pulled up on him and pulled out the hammer, pulled out the blick, just because he was pulling out some scriptures. And here it is, he had the gun aimed to the brother's head, cocked it back and everything. And the spirit came on the brother to pull out some type of martial arts move, disarm the guy, the Edomite, and start pistol whipping. So that whole interaction is very spiritual, because that right there shows you Esau's nature. Esau's nature was the sword. His father Isaac told him, he should live by the sword. And as soon as that Edomite pulled out the gun, he started talking about, you ain't gonna preach to me, nigger. Don't preach. You can't preach here, nigger. Started talking like that. And that's that pride coming out, just because, he had that sword.
That's that evil that lurks within them too as well.
Yeah. But what's spiritual is that, scriptures talk about how Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followed it. At the end of all that altercation, Jacob was the one that started, that was standing. And Esau came back, trying to, the Edomite came back trying to say, I'm sorry. And then ended up trying to take his camera, trying to fight the brother again. Whereas that's that scripture talks about how, though his words were smoother than butter, war was in his heart. Don't be deceived when he comes crouching down humbly, because, next time you look back, he's backstabbing you. So, we're going to start with Isaiah, or, 2nd Ezra 16, verse 70. Because what happened right there was a little glimpse into that persecution. Just for the word, that word was cutting him. And it was really cutting those demons that Edomite had on him. But I bet, that whole altercation was influenced because of what was happening recently with whole Captain Kirk. Yeah, Captain Kirk and the black guy with the white girl on the subway.
What was the brother talking about?
He was talking about Job 9 and 24. The earth is given to the hands of the wicked.
That's funny.
He was pulling up that scripture, and that's when all that happens. Which, yeah, but that's what we saw right there. Eventually, that's going to be on a mass scale. People coming up trying to, talk their, truth, as they say, because of what we're saying. But go ahead and read that.
2nd Ezra 16 and 70. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection on those that fear the Lord.
Right, insurrection means uprising. Right, it means, people coming against you. Like, if there's a civil war, the people are being insurrectionists against the government. Keep going.
They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. For they shall waste and take their goods and cast them out of their houses.
Yep. Keep going.
Then shall
Actually, right there it talks about, coming into your house, breaking into your house, taking what you got, because it's going to be complete anarchy. And we're seeing how they're slowly building up the stage to get to that civil war. You got this thing right now going on in Chicago. DJ Trump trying to send the
Coast Guard or some shit?
Yeah, the National Guard. But you got the governor of Chicago talking about, nah, we ain't allowing that. Right, so that right there is that type of civil war.
Yeah, I think it was there too when it was the mayor, the governor was telling like the PD, like the police department, not to help like all the ICE agents and shit. That itself created like a conflict of interest too between them.
Yeah, so when we go to, stay right there, when we go to 2nd Esdras, chapter 15, and verse 16, it says, "For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power." So that's what we're starting to see right now, is people are not regarding what the kings, have to say, what the president, the governor has to say, because they're realizing that that's just wicked, you know. So this is just the beginning. We're literally seeing the beginning of Jacob's trouble, because those videos I've seen of ICE, kicking down, Jake Holmes in Chicago, that shit was no joke. Zip tying little kids together, literally grabbing U.S. citizens and throwing them in those camps. They pick your ass up and then they question you. It's supposed to be the opposite way. But hey, we were literally talking about this before all this happened, how they're not gonna give a fuck if you're a U.S. citizen or not. If you got that dark complexion, they're gonna get your ass. And I was talking, to my family yesterday about all this, and a perfect example of U.S. citizens being locked up was when the United States was at war with Japan. You had U.S. citizen, Japanese people here that were U.S. citizens, that because the United States was at war with Japan, they rounded up all those Japanese people here and put them in concentration camps, just because of their background, that they're Japanese. And the government's logic was, we don't know if they could be, up to something. They might, act in their nation's interest and become terrorists. So put them all in, concentration camps. All that is going to happen again, but with you so-called Latinos, Negroes, and Native Americans. And we can see how, people say, oh, ICE is only coming for the Latinos. But they're out here in the Negro hoods, pulling up on Judah. Yeah. So that's Jacob's trouble. The trouble is for Jacob. Okay? But keep going on that.
Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in fire.
Right, so these people bugged out, man.